that position. Can't look at it anymore. Magnus Carlsen up 4 games to 2, and now with the white pieces, Magnus, he's going to his Fianchetto setup, and will he go to a Catalan? That's the big question. No, he instead goes to King's Indian attack.
Check the mic and make sure it's
and he goes for this move A4. Quite a funny little move. I wonder what exactly the idea is. We see Jan playing the move knight c6 very quickly. He can now go e5, grab space in the center. But Robert, it's going to be interesting to see how Jan will deal with all of this. I mean, he lost that game with the white pieces. Magnus came back, and yeah, now he's losing game after game.
Look at this position here. It's one where it's a solid position for both sides, and that tends to favor Magnus against anybody on the planet. So Black's position, great opening thus far from Jan. He is not worse. You see the eval bar right down the middle, and he can't afford to beat himself. Playing the King's Gambit like that, it's what you were talking about yesterday, Benjamin, where you play some kind of risky opening. He lost 13 moves to Arjun. He lost a pretty quick one to Magnus. And what just happened there? Why did the eval bar go all the way down for a second?
So it seems that rook d8 might have been a miss. I think Jan had the opportunity to go b6 followed by bishop a6, which would have been very uncomfortable for Magnus to deal with, as where do you go with the queen, right? You cannot go to e3, going back to e1 looks quite passive. You can go knight c4, but then you're pinned, and if you go to c4, then you create a lot of weak squares. Now Jan goes for bishop to g4, also a nice move, as he can potentially take control over the square on b4.
And he protects his e5 pawn, which is under threat by 3 pieces, at least before white played c3, because of the pin on that f3 knight. So c3 play to stop that knight d4 move we talked about. The bishop on b2 looks quite silly. It's funny playing an opening like this, where it looks like white is not doing anything right, and the eval bar is saying it's completely fine for Magnus. He gets away with these type of openings. Objectively, they're just fine.
Exactly, Jan is doing absolutely fine here. He goes queen e6, stepping the queen up a little bit. I think the reason why white is doing fine here is because this knight on c6 doesn't have anywhere to go to for the moment. The squares on b4 and d4 are restricted. On the other hand, the knight on c4 is quite active. It can potentially move around e3 and d5 or f5. So we see the move rook f1 by Magnus. I wonder exactly what he has in mind. And also this bishop on b2, for the moment it looks silly, but it can always reroute via c1 to e3 or g5.
It's likely to happen, and bishop h3, one of Black's main ideas when you line the queen and bishop up, is not possible because the knight g5 jumps within 4 of queen and bishop. So rook to e1, protecting the e4 pawn, overprotecting it, you could say. And maybe he'll slice queen back to f1 at some point and then play h3 himself and just try to kick this bishop out of there.
Right, so let's see what Jan's gonna do here. Takes a little bit of time. He goes knight to e8. I think a nice move. He wants to go knight to d6 to try to trade off this active knight on c4. So now, if Magnus wants to keep this knight on the board, perhaps he has to consider a move like queen to c2, so he can meet knight d6 with knight e3. Because otherwise, after the trade, it feels like Jan gets a pretty perhaps try to infiltrate, and Magnus goes Magnus perhaps has to trade off that knight for his bishop. It would weaken the light squares around his king. But if he goes king h2, and there we see the trade, if Jan now gets time to go like rook c2, followed by bishop f3, he should have real counterplay. But one thing you have to be careful of, Robert, is that after bishop a3, if white plays f5, all of a sudden white would be threatening checkmate on f8.
Oh, this is checkmate net. f5, rook f8, checkmate. That's why rook takes g3 was not played. But wait, he walks into f5.
5? Okay, I guess you have to go g6 or g5?
Is there even bishop takes d5 in a position like this? The bishop on d1 is hanging at the end of the line. The rook on d8 snipes it from across the board.
Right, but black gets a lot of pawns. You can recapture, take on g3, maybe go rook a3 after. Magnus down to 14 seconds. Maybe he can also go a5, takes on b6, he goes g4. Okay, but now you can take the pawn.
Yeah, the a4 pawn is loose. He wants some kind of checkmating neck that doesn't seem to fully exist. And now that a4 is gone, b5 next. I think Jan is out of the woods.
Exactly, and with both players getting little time, this is anyone's game. Rook b7, a clever little check by Magnus. The bishop moves to e2, bishop e7. If anything, it still looks a little bit uncomfortable for Jan here.
And Jan can blunder a bishop. If the king gets up to f2 now, the rook's on b6, not on b7.
Oh, but king f2, there goes the bishop.
He walked into it a different way, and the pawn on f5 lives on because of rook g5. This is going to be a win for Magnus Carlsen. Oh no, this looks like game one in reverse.
And bishop h8, what a great move, hanging on to the bishop. Okay, king f8, and now you just go rook a7, followed by f6. Wait, but you are a little bit stuck though. How exactly do you make progress? Rook e7, maybe Jan can push the pawn. The bishop is stuck over here, but now Magnus is pushing up his king, and this should be a win.
Yeah, it should be. The king can also help out. f7, f8, and that is the game. Magnus Carlsen goes up